Among the many blessings of this time of the church year are the narratives that our tradition offers us. Consider our well-known stories like today's account of the Magi in Matthew, or Luke's version of the Christmas story which we heard on Christmas Eve. These narratives tell our story, the Christian story. Narratives like these are the foundation of our faith. We know them well, but their familiarity to us, though it is a tremendous blessing, can also be a little bit of a curse. The blessing is that most of us have heard today's gospel scores of times. We know what it says and what it's going to say next. It's a source of great comfort and strength. It's a reminder of God incarnate, of Christ manifest to all people. The curse of its familiarity, though, is that we can no longer hear it afresh. It's not new to us. So we forget to truly explore it, to mine its riches, to ask questions about it. We can, if we're not careful, take it for granted. A friend of mine talks constantly about reading bedtime stories to her young nieces as she tucks them in at night. They have reached the age at which everything they see or hear or do ignites their curiosity, and they ask, why? Why does the princess have such long hair? Why is the dragon so mean? Why is he black instead of green? Why does Santa have 8 reindeer? And why does he wear red? Why? There's something special about this time in a child's life. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to last. Somewhere along life's way, something changes in us. And once we grow up and earn grades and cut grass and get a job and have a baby and pay bills, we tend to get stuck in a rut. And we long for predictability. We expect things to be as they should be. Every year we sing this hymn. Every year Grandma makes pecan pie. Every year we get pajamas on Christmas Eve. We have a routine. And we don't have to ask questions anymore. So we leave our curiosity behind. It's especially easy to check our curiosity at the door of the church. Our denomination is steeped in tradition. Our worship is ritualized and concrete. We always know what's going to happen next. Because elements of our worship, like today's gospel, are familiar, we often take them for granted. Traditions are good. Ritual is comforting. I'm for it. But it is not a substitute for our curiosity. Curiosity can lead you to discover things you had never noticed before, even in your routine religion. Curiosity might lead you to ask, why are there 3 wise men if the text doesn't identify them by gender or number? Curiosity might lead you to ask, why do we omit the confession of sin before the Eucharist during Christmas and on Epiphany? Curiosity might lead you to ask, why is the credence table on a different side of the altar today? Epiphany is a time to follow the example of the Magi, who were curious enough to follow a star all the way to the Messiah. Christians often characterize Epiphany as a great aha moment. We tend to focus on the Magi's discovery of Jesus, and not their search for him. Their discovery is quite literally an epiphany, laid out for us as a sudden revelation, the moment that the people of earth have been waiting for, Jesus Christ the Messiah. This Messiah is the answer. By beholding the incarnate God in a manger or at home with Mary, the wise men behold love, salvation, grace, and peace. It's all of the sudden clear. And that's fine. I believe all that stuff. But I'm not convinced that's the way it always works. It's not enough for us to expect Epiphany to be a great aha moment that reveals to us all that is necessary for a vibrant life of faith. Rather, I think we need to focus on the Magi's search for Jesus. Because I think that we are much more familiar with searching than we are discovering. I'm guessing that none of us, maybe at least not all of us, have come here today with some sudden revelation of truth. I'm guessing you didn't wake up this morning with a game-changing insight about your faith. If you're like me, you can go for months at a time without feeling spiritually satisfied. No offense. And that's okay. That's okay because God can do a lot more with a curious mind than he can with a satisfied one. When it comes to faith, answers don't always knock us over the head or fall into our lap. Big truths are rarely all of a sudden made clear. But that's okay because Epiphany is more than a sudden revelation. Epiphany is a constant search for God. Let Epiphany be your opportunity to embolden your curiosity and to steadfastly search for God's truth by asking questions, by studying the Bible, by taking your joys and concerns to God in prayer, by seeking and serving Christ in all people. By searching for God in any of these ways or others, you will become more aware of the possibilities that God has in store for you. Epiphany is not necessarily about what we find in the manger as much as it is about looking up at a star and asking, where do I go from here? Like many captivating stories, today's gospel has a good cliffhanger. We don't know what happens after the Magi leave the Messiah. We don't know what happens to them after they meet Jesus. Having lived into their curiosity, the Magi searched for and discovered Christ, but that can't be the end of their story. No one would travel all that way, behold the Messiah, and then say, well, been there, done that. This is much more than a trip to Hoover Dam. Okay? This is Jesus. Something had to be stirred up inside of them. I'm telling you, meeting Jesus was only the beginning of their search for God. What did God do with them next? How were they changed? I'm not completely sure. I can't be completely sure. But I do know something about people's lives changing. I bet you do too. I know a guy, I guess I could call him a friend, who wandered into worship one Sunday morning just because he had driven by the building, so many times, and he saw this amusing church sign out front, one that changes with a different witty slogan week to week. And he was just curious about the place, so he went in, and he met some people, and he passed the peace, and he sang some songs, and he listened to the sermon. And he was so moved by what he experienced that during coffee hour, he signed up to come back the next week to distribute food as a part of the church's homeless ministry. And he was so touched by that experience that he joined the regular rotation. And he returned next month to do the same. And before long, he was singing in the choir. And then he started driving the church van to pick up people for worship. Within the year, he even invited a few friends to come to church with him. It's amazing what happens when you meet Jesus. It transforms your life. It gives you a new perspective. It changes your priorities. Today, you have come once again to meet Jesus in the breaking of the bread and the prayers. And I wonder how it will change you. I wonder how your search for God will begin anew this day. I do wonder. Maybe I'm just curious.